It's 10:53 p.m. here on the East Coast. Welcome to the live. Thank you for tuning in. And if you are on the replay, thank you for going ahead and all of you sharing, hitting the share button. I'm going to start here in a few seconds. Let me get Clubhouse on. Bear with me one moment. How's everybody doing? How is everybody doing? I pray, I pray all of you are doing well on this beautiful night. Thank you for tuning in. We have been delving in to possible signs of NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. And we have been doing a deep dive. I have been researching and studying it, on a uh, basic level, if you will. I'm no mental health professional at all, although I was a sociology major in college with a minor in psychology. So I've always been interested in things like this. My parents both were mental health professionals. So we talked about a lot of this stuff at the table. On many of evenings growing up, we talked about um, just being sensitive to things like this, all mental disorders and, mental illnesses and any type of issue. And not to poke fun. My parents are very adamant about that because of the work that they did and the passion they had for mental health uh, patients, mental health workers, and the like. So, yeah, let's stop. We're going to say this. I'm going to say this each episode because it's near and dear to my heart. Let's stop overusing the word and stop using it out of context. And let's stop just calling people narcissistic or narcissists or saying a person has narcissism if you don't know for sure that they indeed do. And I would hope if you did know that you would not make comments like that, right? That you would not say those types of things, just as you would not want someone to say what can be looked at as derogatory, even though it does not mean that you are much any different than anyone who is not um, narcissistic or doesn't have the personality disorder. We are all God's creation, children of God, and we are created in His image and in His likeness. And so nothing is missing, nothing is broken, is our prayer and our declaration, right? And so be mindful, be mindful. Of course, as we've said on previous episodes, we know it's trending. It's a catchphrase and it shouldn't be. It's a buzzword and it needs to really not be, right? And so I'm just going over some of the things. And any of you who have joined the live, please let me know what city and state, and even on the replay, in which you are joining from. I would love to, get some segmentation and look at some of the different information afterwards that each platform provides for me. And so that would help me a lot if you, were to tell me what city and state, or if you're not comfortable doing that, at least the state, so that when I look at the back end of these lives, I can see some demographics here. That is something that I enjoy as well. And so on episode one, we describe what narcissism is, and just to give you a quick definition of it, it's an inflated sense of self. And when we say inflated, it means extreme, often, although there's a spectrum. But for all intents and purposes, let's talk about an extreme sense of self, where you are extremely self absorbed, extremely self obsessed. You're self obsessed um, in more ways than one. And there's really very little of an off button. It's always about you, right? Never being empathetic to anyone else, never being considerate, sensitive, selfless. Everything is about how the world centers around you and how you're affected by what you do or don't do, and how people treat you or don't treat you, receive you or don't receive you, the way they regard you or don't regard you. And oftentimes there's no middle ground. Um, you want everything to revolve around you. And we're talking about inflated. Many of us might have heard, the saying growing up that the world doesn't revolve around you, from the person who reared us, or someone else might have said it. And I'm not talking about, once in a while being in your feelings, or every, hit or miss, um, being easily offended. Let me say that. That is not what I mean. I'm talking about the decisions, the options, the choices, the characteristics, and the like of someone who, again, has an very inflated sense of self, very, very inflated, superiority complex, very entitled, very, very entitled. And then on the second day, episode 2, we talked about gaslighting. And I think these recaps help people who may jump in on these lives midway, or at any point where they may not have seen the previous one. I like to recap what all of the ones were. So gaslighting. Gaslighting, you hear that too can be overused. That too can be um, something that we hear way too much. And often, if you don't know what it is, then you probably have used it out of context. So gaslighting is an insidious form of manipulation and psychological control. Victims of gaslighting are deliberately and systematically fed false information that leads them to question what they know to be true, often about themselves. They may end up doubting their memory, they may end up doubting their perception, and even their sanity. Over time, a gaslighter's manipulations can grow more complex and more potent, making it increasingly difficult for the victim to see the truth. And so, it may, if you have a relationship, any type of relationship, parent to child, child to parent, sibling relationship, coworker, to boss, or a relational, romantic relationship. If it's with a gaslighter, it may seem to start out quite well. They may praise the victim on a first date and immediately confide in them. Such disclosure before any intimacy has been establishes trust quickly. It's part of a tactic known, and we'll talk about this tomorrow, as love bombing. The more quickly a victim becomes enamored, the more quickly the next phase of manipulation can begin. A gaslighter's tactics, they'll initially lie about simple things, but the volume of misinformation soon grows. And the gaslighter may accuse the victim of lying if he or she questions the narrative. They typically deploy occasional positive reinforcements to confuse the victim. But at the same time, they may attempt to turn others against the victim. even their own friends and family. And we've talked about that a lot. And they do that by telling them that the victim is lying, and they like to use the word crazy. They like to use the word extra sensitive, doing too much, over the top, irrational, all those types of words. Um, they are basically trying to pit the victim against pit others against the victim. So they'll say, something's wrong with their mind, you know, they're going crazy, they are crazy. They'll go as far to paint a picture and then say that the victim is delusional, seeing things, make up things. You never can tell what she's going to do or he's going to do next. If you have proof, and go to someone who has NPD or someone who's a gaslighter, you can have as much proof as you want. And not only will they not take accountability or ownership, but they'll tell you you made it up. You created the documents. It looks just like your work because you're so manipulative and you're so vicious, and you're all these things. And they'll just play play into it, rather than um, admitting their involvement. No matter how much evidence you have, they're going to keep denying it all the way to their grave, pretty much. And so we talked about that on day 2. And then we went into a symptom, sign, or trait called negging. Now, a lot of people may not know what negging is, but negging is when you find someone who, it's a form of gaslighting, but it's a little bit different. Let's see here. Let me give you a good depiction of what it is, because I found that the average person doesn't necessarily know that word as much as they do, like um, some of the others, like love bombing, like gaslighting, right? So let's get negging in here. Bear with me one moment. My notes are all on my devices. And it's Negging. 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 And so let's see. Let me give you an idea of what it's likened to. It's, if you've heard someone call someone or you call someone a chameleon, right? That's a person who changes his or her opinions or behavior to please other people. Okay. And so they can also be like an opportunist, and one who dexterously and exponentially changes or adopts opinions, at the expense of their own reputation. So that's like a social chameleon, okay? Someone who could be whatever his host. And it's interesting that they use that word because ministry, biblically speaking, um, we use that word as it is many times in the Bible. And so just to hear that the person could be whatever his or her host wanted him to be, um, it's interesting. And so when you think of chameleon, um, they just assimilate and adapt, in 2.2 seconds. So it's a negative way of being all things to all people. So that means that there's a lying spirit in there, running rampant. There's a compulsive, and oftentimes there is, some a pathological liar in there as a chameleon. And so I want to go into, I think I named everything in the past episodes. If I left anything out, please forgive me. I think the only thing was the Darvo method. That was the other thing, a tactic of what narcissists resort to play the victim. And so the Darvo method, look that up. It's interesting to see what each acronym for the word Darvo, DARV as in victory, O, Darvo. So today we're going to talk about the guilt trip. Okay. Now these people are master manipulators, right? I mean, the masterminding levels that they go to are, I mean, they are extreme, right? I mean, they are artists at this. I mean, they have studied the craft in a way that most people think that they are kind and pleasant and easygoing and, easy to be around and the life of the party and fun loving and all these things, but that's what they want. They have done a lot to create a false image of self, okay, so that they can get the praise. Because remember, they are and they have an inflated sense of self. So where where we might just want, you know, like our just due, our when we accomplish something, we may go ahead and allow those around us to give us our flowers, right? Give us a trophy or certificate or whatever type of event that follows us completing an assignment or completing an accomplishment or something on our bucket list, something that'll take us further, faster in life, whether it's schooling or climbing the corporate ladder or just a task for the day, right? That's an accomplishment. And so while we, will just humbly go, when asked to show up to a gala or a ceremony where we'll be recognized, we just go and receive the recognition and what comes with it. So think about someone with NPD. They want to do that. They feed off that. They want to do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they create scenarios, and it usually involves a lot of stonewalling and a lot of love bombing and guilt tripping, negging, as we said, gaslighting, so that you give them an emotional response. That's how they feel their love. Their self esteem is so, so, so very low, along with their self worth. And, they really don't have a clear identity of who they are and whose they are. So they need self assurance all the time. Okay. And because of that, they use their victims, and often, as we know, statistically so, that most men suffer with narcissistic personality disorder. And with that, almost always they are involved in infidelity, okay? Because they're what we call that is their new supply. So we call it in the streets a jump off, side piece, side chick, and side male, if you will, for women who are narcissistic. Um, and it's because they need to start the process of breaking a new victim down to get them to give them praise all day and all night. And so if you're unsuspecting and you don't know the signs, and as we said earlier, one of the first things they do is um, they make you enamored by them early. So at the first couple of dates, they, inflate certain things about them and maybe their successes, their background, and they want you to like them quickly because they're ready to go in for the kill, if you will. and start breaking you down over time, right? And again, the way that they feel that they've gotten some ground is if you start giving them emotional responses by responding emotionally, responding in a way where they know that they've gotten into your head. Remember, I told you one of the things that many of my clients have told me and people that I know is that there's a feeling of being always discombobulated, not knowing if you're coming or going. That's how they break you down mentally, and then it affects your health, and you know and it goes on and on from there, and over time you look back and you're just a shell of a person, if you will, and you wonder where all the time went. And preferably and hopefully by that time you have beforehand started realizing that it's not you, something about your partner, your boss, your parent, or any other person in a highly toxic scenario makes you realize that there's something that is just not right. It's not um, that something is not coming across as they have played it in your head and tried to make you think by calling you crazy and calling you one who is making things up, and you dreamt that and all the things that they tell you, right? And so over time, especially when your body is affected physically and often spiritually, um, as I told you, find a third party to run things by. Ask them, and they'll always have a level head. They'll almost always be objective, because if you're left in a position where you always have to go into deep processing of thought because someone is telling you something and you are second guessing what they're saying all the time, right? To the point of it being an intense struggle on your sanity, on your recall, on your memory all the time, right? And you're certain, but you keep telling yourself, well, did I do that? Because of what they said you did and how they flip everything, and you're wondering like, no, I know I parked closer to the door. So why am I, after a while, you're going to say, why am I second guessing myself? I know what I did. No matter how they, flip the switch, how they create a new thought and, using, argumentative tactics and masterminding or whatever it is. So hopefully by that time, by the time you're too torn down and too beaten up emotionally and psychologically. You've already been somewhere to seek counsel. You are in therapy, or someone who you trust and go to often might have been able to say as a third party, it's not you, it's them. And hopefully they'll be able to say that person is really exhibiting narcissistic behaviors, because you want to tell them scenarios, your response and their response, and they'll help you understand that something isn't adding up here. No, what you said, there was nothing wrong with what you said. It was if anything, you were responding to their manipulation, and now they're holding you at fault. Okay. And when you stood up for yourself and when you reminded them of your clear boundaries, and now they want to make it as if that you are the one who has, that you're the one who's calculating, right? And maligning and all that type stuff. So again, tonight we're going to go over one of the traits of a narcissist, and it's called the guilt trip. Okay, the guilt trip. So guilt tripping behaviors often show up in close relationships, romantic partnerships, friendships, professional relationships, or family relationships. So, someone trying to guilt trip you, they may point out their own efforts and hard work to make you feel as if you've fallen short. They make sarcastic and passive aggressive remarks about the situation. They ignore your efforts to talk about the problem. They give you the silent treatment. Okay, remember that is stonewalling. Remember, I gave you the example. They will just look through you and will not almost blink. They won't say a word, right? And you're sitting there, I know you hear me. Why aren't you not saying anything, right? You know, why are you being quiet? And they just basically saying, bow down. you know, I'm not answering. It's almost like ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. But because they never take accountability, they'll never admit that they don't take ownership. They'll never admit that they're compulsive liars. So they get to a point of control where they will stonewall you and they just won't say nothing. And it's a waiting game. They'll wait you out. But as you start using different techniques, rather, like telling them, if you're going to try to manipulate me, will stop talking and I will go in the other room, you know, as opposed to an emotional response. Another thing that a narcissist will do to try to guilt trip you is they'll deny their irritation, though their actions tell you otherwise. So remember, I said a chameleon. Um, so in some ways, a lot of the things they do are likened to a people pleaser or a person who seeks approval. But this would be extreme or really needs to be needed, if you will. And so instead of being honest and, being clear in communication and saying, I don't like when you do this, please don't do this, please stop doing this, they'll, again, remember I said narcissists they want to be respected as king and queen, but they have the accountability of a child. So it's almost like they're curt and short or stonewalling you, but then they'll act like nothing's wrong. Why you not responding? You know, is something wrong? No, I'm good. Because I'm superior. I got a God complex. Ain't nothing ever wrong with me. It's something wrong with everybody else but me. So they're like, I'm good. But they're vexed, right? You know, especially if you gave them an emotional response and they weren't able to feed off of it long as they wanted to, because you cut it short. And remember to use the tactic of saying, if you're going to manipulate me or try to mastermind me, I am going to leave the house. So I'm going to walk out of the office and go and get my work done, and we could try again tomorrow. And so, what they often do also, they show no interest in doing anything to improve the situation themselves. So, sometimes because they can be the one that's extremely dramatic, if you catch them, like, for example, if infidelity is almost a guarantee with the narcissist, if you catch them in the act and after they deny it 23 and a half times and they're in the bed with the other person, they'll just start having a tantrum and crying uncontrollably and start talking about, but you don't have to leave me because of this. um, I know you're going to leave me, don't leave me, but wait, whatever you do, don't leave me. Instead of, I'm wrong, I understand if you leave, I I understand if you're mad, you have a right to be mad. Like, remorse and repentance, they lack it. Okay. Okay, another thing that they do, again, false promises. So they are quick when they're having the tantrums and crying on a dime. They're quick to say, "I'll go get help. I'll go get help." You might have been trying to get them to get help for 69.3 years, but all of a sudden, as they're saying to you, "Don't leave me," not "I was wrong. I deserve to be by myself. I don't want you to go, but you have every right to go, right? Um, they won't do that. They'll just keep saying to you that they um, will go get help. And then the next thing you know, 6 months have gone by and they never reported back to you who they sought out, what the agency and organization is, who the therapist is, the name of the therapist, what the therapist specializes in. These are the types of things my clients have told me over and over. Now, if you were well-meaning and had genuine intentions, wouldn't you follow up with the person who you cried, you know, big crocodile tears, and said that you would go get therapy? Wouldn't you want to do it, you know, within the next day or so, as quickly as you can get an appointment? And you should be running to call the victim, right, and say, listen, I asked them to get me in immediately. The first one appointment was next Wednesday. I asked if they have anything sooner. I wanna get some help. I want to find out what hereditarily is. As we know, stats do say a lot of it is hereditary. What might be causing me to act this way? I'm ready to get the help that I needed and really get some type of understanding of what's going on. But they won't do that because, again, their intentions often are never pure. Okay, they want you to serve them, and they'll do it at nauseum, right? At the expense of everybody. So if everybody is serving them, and they're the center of everyone's life, right? As we said, if they feel that everyone around them sees them as the one who life revolves around, then they're getting the false love, false acceptance, the false pseudo identity that they're craving for, instead of dealing with the trauma. Okay, and this isn't just a journey of doing the work for the average person. There's some other things that have to happen, right? And when they get that help, and as I stated on another episode, they say, and not Surrett says, not that I am in agreement with what the medical professionals and the psychiatrists, psychological evaluation of what they've studied for years, but they really say there's no cure. Okay, now again, I do not agree with that. I am a Jesus girl, and He can heal and does heal all things. Now, the guilt trip, a way that you will see it act out of, again. And lastly, is the use of body language to communicate their displeasure by sighing. Now they study this on their victims, right? Because they have to know how to go back in for the kill, as I say. So they're big on nonverbals, right? But when they use them, that's how you know, as we said earlier, they deny their irritation, but everything that they're doing is showing you they're irritated. But if you try to call them out and say, "What, you mad?" You're like, "Why would I be mad?" You the one that should be mad. You the one seeing things. You the stupid one. You the one that have made stuff up, as you always do, right? So their body language, they're communicating their displeasure. They might sigh, especially if they're stonewalling you, and you're playing into it like they want, and you're blocking their view from seeing anything but you, because you want to look in their eyes and say, "Why are you ignoring me 100 times?" That's what they want you to do. And so their body language is sign like, as I don't answer you, I'm a sigh in your face to let you know I'm king and I'm queen. Bow down. Okay? You're begging me. I'm not begging you. You're begging me to you want me to talk to you. And I'm gonna show you who's in control. We'll sit here all night. I ain't gonna open my mouth. I don't care if you cry, do a cartwheel. Why do you do this to me? I would never, at this age, lets another adult or child who's trying to reason with me and communicate with me, I would never dishonor a human in the way you're dishonoring me by not answering me. They like, okay, crossing their arms, like, how long are we gonna do this? Oh, okay, we can do this all night. Slamming objects down. And that's why when you look at physical abuse with a narcissist, they may not hit you, but they're going to throw stuff at you, hit above your head, on a wall, damage furniture, damage, different things in the house. And they know because that's the play. See that you can't say I'm abusive physically, but then can you? That's the whole goal, to make you question everything, right? And if they're spewing venom and putting lies into your friends, families, and neighbors, and coworkers, and anybody else, if they can beat you to the punch because they don't know, because they're very, very, uh, again, very low self-esteem, and so they make up, things in their head about scenarios as it relates to what is she saying about me? What is he saying about me? She's probably telling, the neighbors that I'm the real one who's off the hook, right? Even though I got her, or him thinking that they can't tell if they're coming or going, but let me beat them to it and let me kind of, weigh out and peep, what the neighbor might know by asking some very masterminding questions to get a feel for if they're talking about me, if they might have heard something. And so that's something they run with. And so they start lying, and just little stuff, and then it becomes bigger, and they want to sow a seed of discord and saying enough negative stuff so that if you do leave them because you've been tore down and you've broken down to a point where this person doesn't want to change, they don't want to transform, no matter how many times you have heard them when you caught them in a lie or in a situation where they've cheated. No matter how many times they have cried those crocodile tears, that you would think they really have gotten several Emmys and Tonys for. After a while, you realize at every juncture, at every point, they never really got help. If they pretty much never got it, not even really got it at all. And so, calling out guilt tripping when you notice it is one of the most effective ways of combating it. So remember how earlier I said, do not give an emotional response. What you want to do is create a clear boundary, one that they may have ignored in the beginning when you had your non-negotiables and all of the different standards. But because they thrive on being very elaborate in the beginning and creating a facade. The fakery is really real, guys. You should hear some of the stories. They move really fast. They want to date fast. They want to marry fast. They want to take you all around the world early because that's the play. It's to throw you off, and then they start, really getting in your head and eroding on the victim. And then they go find a new supply, right? A new victim that they're working on, a victim. So they feed off of it, almost like a vampire, like I said on another episode. So combat those behaviors. If you have heard something tonight and it makes you wonder about yourself or somebody in your circle, then go back and listen to some of the other traits and some of the other characteristics that possibly, because I'm not a clinical professional or even a medical professional, I can't diagnose anyone. So again, from my studies of over 20 years, these are some things that I have found, and from my clients and from my own research, that are possible traits of someone who is possibly a narcissist or may have narcissistic personality disorder. But there is help. You are not alone. Reach out to organizations around you, wherever you may live, or online. There's so much telehealth out here now, where you don't even have to go into an office. But just know that no, you're not sensitive. You're not dramatic. No, your feelings are actually valid, right? You're not overreacting, nor are you overly emotional. And it's sad, but if we could learn to communicate, all of us, without blame, we would be heard clearly, right? So take ownership of your actions, right? Of course, we can't make anybody else do that, but I will be honest, from what I have witnessed and what my clients have gone through, it is nothing more draining, right? Than having people in your life that never ever take ownership of nothing that they, or anything, let me not say two double negatives, anything that they do, especially the older we get. Now, they, again, they have value, they have worth, they are children of God, and it does not make them any less of a good or a good citizen, let's say, a law abiding person, just because of this mental health diagnosis. Just know what you're dealing with. Get the help, right? After COVID, I think more and more of people all over the world, right, looked at mental health a little differently. Again, that's why we have so many telehealth options where you can meet with a professional over video. And that's why it is important to me on every episode to stress not to use the word narcissist out of context. Do not jokingly call a person a narcissist or saying they have narcissism or they're acting narcissistic. It is very insensitive. And what if someone took something that has been spoken over you by way of diagnosis or prognosis and threw it back in your face? You wouldn't like that, right? Whether it's mental or medical or developmental or whatever it could be, social conditions, economical, financial. You wouldn't want anybody to center you out, right? So let's watch what we write, right, and say to others, and so that we can heal together. Because as you and I both know, we are better together. And I am Surette Pierre, also known as the Freedom Igniter, where I ignite wholeness using biblical healing of God techniques, training, and kingdom principles. Because I, again, know that God has and He can heal all things and He can do all things. And so go ahead, set your notifications for the next time I come on. I've been doing pretty well at coming on daily. I can't give you a schedule as of now, but just go ahead, and when you see me go live, because you've set your notifications, then go ahead and join me and hit the share button, or you are welcome to hear the replay. We are going to get through this. It's impactful, and we have a lot more to unpack in the area of MPD. And again, this is Surette Pierre. Visit me over at Connect with Surette club and thefreedomigniter.com. They should be in the description or somewhere in the actual live itself. Okay, and until next time, signing off for now. Sayonara.